When I look at this massive crime about abuse, right? I pointed out that I think I can connect Skolsborg case, which is a earlier Danish ambassador, married German, murder, and the ambassador was living in New York and had access to information about gold. And I think that was the reason why he was murdered. I don't think it's a Second World War kind of, what could you say? It could be connected that he had access to gold from the Second World War, maybe. Then I could connect it to Arlen Atkinson in Ireland. She would then be the second under the name G. And then Anna Beaumont, I am probably the one survival of that case that can point out that the father, Anna Beaumont's father, tried to liberate Anna and got killed, and disposal in this area, right? And cyanide kill, right? So Arlen Atkinson, Northern Ireland, might have replaced an early identity of G, right? Then there is, I think I've seen a picture of Daniel Bartner, but also a person called Eric. Hannah talked about a brother called Eric that died as child, right? If we look at the profile on Eric and Hannah, they are almost identical. Hannah grew up by an older man called Jørn, and I think he knew Jesper before. Hannah is 70 years younger than Jesper, right? So basically, Jesper and Jørn might have had company, something going on in Australia. They might both have been on the Beaumont case and on the Tron case. Whether this event after 2012 has hurt other people in the family beside of what hurt before, right? So identification is a important thing before you flesh out all your crimes of Esbjerg police and lawyers and commune staff, right? So basically, when I see a deep fake video of person I might have known or person that has been missing or unsolved crime, my question is, why don't you identification of me as a person or the network around me and follow some of the money trail, right? So we got maybe under the name of Hannah, there could also have been replacement from early years in 70s and then maybe later. I'm not sure that it is in a way that if you talk big money, you can always beat somebody to say who they think they are, kind of way, right? I think G was suffering from meningitis, but who knows what it really was, right? Replacement there from Northern Ireland, a missing person, Arlen Atkinson. Then about, could there be other, the Daniel Bartner is a question mark. I have like 2 links on that. Then we have Junior Hay, is she still the same, or did they also write, there was an attack on her house, there was an attack on Hannah's house, the later Hannah maybe. So basically, who is who, right? Also, another thing, plaguing abandonment connected to Rote Fraktion and IRA. IRA plays a role in this, I'm pretty sure about that. And that I'm basing that Arlen Atkinson is a little far off the road when we talk United States and Denmark or Germany or we talk Australia. Northern Ireland is so remote that if you are having business in Ireland, you have to have some connections, right? I also think there's a question about who runs the music business around U2. Who are they really now, right? So basically, replacement of people is not. It's not unlikely that the ID has been abused, the houses has been abused. They move around a little bit, but they still keep their property, right? I think we're looking at something about the Italian copy market, copy product market, Italian corruption, and maybe linked to some blackmail, the terrorism, Pleaking and Ruda and Irie, right? So maybe it is what it looks like, a terror crime, right? So the terrorists are building up economy with blackmail or control over the same thing as the mafia would do, right? Then about, so identification, also Jesper could have been replaced more than one time. There's a picture that police had where the person that we children would know is Jesper is sitting in a swing over here actually. He's sitting with a long-haired girl that everybody thinks is me, but it's not. And because he's sitting with her and there's some fractures on the girl's hands, he could as well be a victim of a crime, right? So we don't for sure know if it's the same man all the way up. And I'm looking at, for example, the person VG. VG was a sort of first-time paparazzi crime scene photographer, and he was like a New York crime photographer, and the identification of him was a little difficult because the person you think are VG is not VG. I think the person that you think is VG is a handicapped man that was explored by the real VG, right? And I think the only picture I could find that maybe has some answer is a photo where there's a man laying alive in a pajamas on a stair in the back of a house in the stairway, right? And he looks a bit like who I think he is. It's a well-built man, muscularly in a pajamas. You don't see his face, but I can see his body, right? VJ, I think VJ maybe staged some of the crimes. And also when I was a child, Jesper was boxing with children. I had like an uppercut from that hand, right? He was abusive. There was use of drug rape, like ATA. And there's actually a crime case in Denmark with ATA. So a sort of track, and he might have left. I mean, he might be somewhere else today. But the problem is that this type of man, like the photographer, which I think is the only trace really, is that he's so, he doesn't share like empathy for anyone really. So he could probably smash through the truth sometimes, right? But another thing I found was Ireland in the 70s, female Irish fighters, right? And there's a person that I recognize as Hay, right? And she's also in fame, evil person. So maybe they had some joint venture, crime scene, something. I think that Vijay might have been responsible for, I have a photo found on a video in the Tron case, and that photo shows a man from behind, and he's a photograph, and another man with a hat, and identified them as Jesper and Jørgen, right? They have fake ID in Denmark. They're not from Denmark. So basically, those two might have stolen, or Second World War stolen children. And Jørgen had a lot of children. He had like, was there 5 or 6, 7 children. and all of them probably has another background than it's not their children. So basically, it's a generation of like a collection of children. Where they came from, I don't know. There was an institution in the area indicate that they were abandoned or something like that. It could also be that they have experienced Second World War and nobody really cared. And to establish a sort of small kind of family and so on. It could be also that they have been exposed to, I don't know, experiment drugs, have been endorsed, like they were going out to do wrong, whatever. I also think that the media, and that's why this paparazzi from Australia, maybe that's Vijay. The United States said that they think he's from Latin America. I'm not so sure about that. I think he more looked like an Italian, an Irish or something. He's very dark hair, but he looks a little bit like, could also be British, but his travel route is probably United States, Second World War, Australia, London, where he escaped maybe from Australia to London and then maybe Denmark, right? So maybe they started out in Denmark. There have also been some discussion if some of these people were Nazi, because the cruelty of what they do is so extreme, and the way they treat other people are so extreme that it can only be some kind of person who doesn't respect other people. And there was also talk about Indiana Vermont's case that the target was exactly those 3 children because the father of the Vermont had been involved in some kind of, I don't know, conflict, Israel-Palestina, or maybe Ireland. So that the chosen 3, there might be a crime about media income. Every time there's a big crime and it's some special kind of crime, if it's like a interesting crime, it could also be like a VIP crime. The newspaper writes for months about it, and that's big money. So you could say the paparazzi killers or drug killers in the paparazzi, I mean, there is a darker world in the industry of media, film, books, and so on. I can see it here because I've been spied on for 50 years by the same media that doesn't want to tell about I lost my child, and to Stevenson, they don't want to talk about that because they all got a bite of, they all got corrupted money and so on. It's dirty money, right? So basically, I know this is a little difficult to understand, but that's because I don't want to be too straight liner for people who doesn't understand this anyway, So you have to listen really carefully now. But I think Jørgen and Jesper were joint in crime. He was a photographer. He might have been named Vidi. The first, you could say, Jack's children is Jørgen, with another name, of course. Maybe New York could answer that. The mobsters, the Gotti and all that. And maybe he was run over by IRA, or maybe he married into. Sometimes they make some kind of joint venture where the one is an Irish mafia, the other one is Italian. That's also how they do sometimes. So basically, maybe that they arranged her marriage, so she got married to him, and then they got, like, maybe he came with 2 kids, 3 kids, or maybe they had all of this. Hannah and Jesper had 4 kids at all. The one is officially adopted, he's probably not. And the 3 other, I reason there's something wrong, right? So it could be the second generation of Jacks. So, and then I think about the VG crimes. It looked for me, when I looked at the pictures, it looked for me as VG was the master of staging a crime he committed. So maybe he's not a photographer, maybe he's a bloody serial killer working for the mob or for the IRA or something. And after he did his crime, he took some photos, which he probably continued doing. There's probably somewhere some photo of me being raped by this guy, right? So, and maybe also when I was hurt in this area, he might be also have pictures of that, you know. Oh, look, she's almost dead. Shit, huh? They also tried to undercut my rights, so they had a false diagnosis. They're constantly threatening about whatever I do. Right? So they're very dangerous people. Joint venture, mafia, and terrorism. They kill for the word, you know. The friends I have, or accidentally somebody who walks in my footsteps could get killed. That's a fact. Police don't give a shit. They're corrupted. They have a massive problem with police in this country.